You know, my days of living in northern Florida may be coming to an end. I've been here for 12 years now. I have to tell you, I thought I would get used to the culture, but I can't, especially in my neighborhood. When I grew up in Queens, New York, there were kids in the street playing all the time. Lived right next to this big park called Farmers Oval. Wasn't a lot of traffic on the streets because it was a dead end, but we played foot hockey, football, baseball, everything. I mean, every single sport you could think of, we played. And there were dozens of us, dozens of kids all hanging out. The parents were all on the same page. They saw your kid doing something wrong. They yelled at them. You didn't get in trouble for that back then. It's perfectly okay because they cared. My neighbors back then, all the family, we cared about each other. They hung out together. We all had each other's backs. My neighborhood in northern Florida, I have to say, my neighbors, and when I say, can I put a percentage on it, 90%, don't give a shit about you or your family. They don't talk to you. They're very mean. And I'm struggling to understand why they're so pissed off. And it's gotten worse as I've been here. It wasn't like that the first couple of years. There were a few kids in the neighborhood, not a lot of kids. It was a few. Now it's hardly any. I did have a few cool neighbors lived next to me, lived across the street. They all moved. And the holidays were cool. Now, Christmas time, I mean, you're lucky if you see just a few houses with decorations on them. Every Halloween. Hey, my neighborhood was the go-to neighborhood when I first moved there. I was there first 3-4 years. You just shut it down. A police car would come with his lights, stopping cars would come into development. Of course, if you lived there, you'd be able to come in. My development house is about 125 homes. But the parents would sit outside on the lawns, have a few beers. The wives would take the kids around, and the husbands would take them around next. It was like 3-4 hours. You hung out. It was very social, a lot of fun. But the past few years, and the old people that run my neighborhood, who basically run my housing development, they now put up a sign right in front of the entrance. So when you go in, right in front of the entrance on Halloween, and it says kids could only trick or treat from 6 to 8 p.m. Think about how effed up that is just for a minute. The kids have one day every year to trick or treat. And you're going to put a limit on it? I mean, only 2 hours? If you don't want to participate, fine. Maybe you're older and you can't walk to the door every 5 minutes to hand out candy. I get it. But if that's the case, just shut your lights off and other kids will ring your bell. But to have a big sign that says only 2 hours? The first few years I lived here, we were the go-to development. The whole town would come to our neighborhood for Halloween. Tons of kids from other neighborhoods. They would trick or treat, and it was awesome. They even set up cool haunted houses for the kids, and they put a lot of work into them. They were really, really cool. Like, they do it through their house, and they had this whole thing set up, different rooms. It was really cool. And now, over the past couple of years, hardly anyone trick or treats in our neighborhood. In fact, my wife and I, we drive a few miles to a friend's house, take our kids trick or treating in their neighborhoods. Because there's no kids around. It's just there's nothing around. Half the people don't have their lights on. They don't care. But the 2 hours, it's just, I mean, so much more fun going someplace else. And I'm not ranting here trying to be funny and picking on Florida. I mean, this is really important. Or more important than earnings season, the coronavirus, the Grammys, the impeachment hearings, topics everyone's talking about this week. But bear with me because my frustration is beyond belief. And more important, I'm going to make a very strong point here. Because recently, when my neighbors, neighbors I don't like, they block my driveway almost every day with their cars. Now, keep in mind, I live in a development where it's against the rules to leave your car parked on the streets overnight, unless there's exceptions. You have a party or someone's over for the weekend, nobody cares, that's okay. I'm not talking about this. My neighbor that lives on the same side as me has 4 cars. They park one of their cars in front of my house almost every day for the past 2 to 3 months. And the tires on this car are actually on the grass. They're on the grass in my front lawn. So forget that it's difficult to see when we pulled out of the driveway, right? Because it's a narrow street, it's difficult, you're blocking off the street, but you're on my fucking grass. Are you kidding me? I mean, the guy across the street's even better. I think he's some kind of retired judge, miserable. And being a judge, it basically means a percentage of being smug, arrogant, asshole, extremely, extremely high, right? I mean, it's hard not to be if you're a retired judge or judge in that matter, given that you've basically been telling everyone what to do your entire career, and none of those people have the right to talk back to you. Not a bad job for anyone who needs to boost their ego. Yes, it requires a lot of education, but you get my point. Here's a guy that parks his car across the street, also blocking my driveway. Now, this guy owns 2 cars, and we all have 2-car driveways in the neighborhood, every house. I have 2 cars, my wife's, myself. They're in our driveway. They're parked in our driveway. But this guy, no. One car is in his driveway, the other parked in the street, blocking my driveway. So when my wife and I pull out, we have to, we're backing out. I have to back out, go forward to get out, which is insane. Now, the funny thing is, and I thought about this a lot, these people have no idea they're doing anything wrong. I mean, they're not being a-holes on purpose, which I could actually accept. I'm from New York. I get it. Sometimes you just don't like people. You got to do stupid. I get it. But they're just idiots. They don't understand that every street in my neighborhood, if you look anywhere, if you walk outside at night, you look to the right, you look to the left, you go down any single block, there's no cars anywhere at night parked on the street except in front of my house, and they're not even my freaking cars. But it's not just the people living next to me and across the street. I mean, almost everyone in my neighborhood is old and miserable. I mean, it's been going on for such a long time. I'll get home from hanging out with my family. We like to do things on the weekends. I get out of the car. My kids and wife get out of the car when we park in our driveway. And someone will be walking their dog across the street. And this is an isolated situation. This happens a lot. And the sidewalk's across the street. We don't have the sidewalk on our side of the street. It's across the street. So, someone will be walking their dog, just walking by. And I always do the polite thing. I wave and say, hey, how's it going? How you doing? And I'll wave. They look at me and don't wave back. They just keep walking. I mean, who doesn't wave back? Who doesn't wave back anywhere in the world? Who doesn't wave back when you wave to them? I mean, I could travel to Beirut. There could be a terrorist across the street. And if I wave, that terrorist is going to wave for me. It's universal. Everybody waves. Everybody always waves. Even if you don't like the person. If someone waves, you wave. It's everywhere. Universal, any country, anywhere. They're going to wave back. My neighborhood? Nope. They won't wave back. Just turn the head and keep walking. And my kids see this and they're like, wow, why is everybody so mean here? And, I'm always honest with them and I tell them because there's a lot of a-holes in the neighborhood. And, I try to cover that up and don't curse, but, they're kind of, what? And, my daughters, they'll be what? A-holes, Dad? I'm like, no, don't say that. But they get the point. So I say, just ignore them. But I just don't get it. I mean, why do you hate the world for? Why are you so grumpy? And if you hate everything and you're mean to everybody, man, just jump off a bridge or something. I know that sounds terrible. Oh my God, tell me to commit. It's just if you're that miserable, why share the misery with everybody else? I just don't know what the purpose is, being miserable and treating people mean all the time. And I'm not talking about sometimes this happens. This happens all the time. And maybe some of these people are living with chronic pain. Okay, you get a pass, but that's not these people. You know what pisses me off the most? And this is really important to understand. Very, very important to understand. Guys like me are in the prime of their career. I work my ass off. I love what I do. The only way we get smarter, the only ways we can learn is by talking to people who have experience, who went through ups and downs, lived through different cycles, where most young people today only know about one cycle, a straight up stock market, booming economy, assets going higher for the past 10 years. And guys, this kind of market never happened in our history this long. We will go into a recession. We will have massive pullbacks. That's normal. That's normal. But you get this experience by talking to people who've been through it. But if you're 60 or older, the knowledge you have, I can't read that in books. I can't. It doesn't capture the emotions, the real perspective that you have. I mean, the financial newsletter industry, our demographic is a 60-year-old person who has a nest egg, who is looking for new ideas to invest in, has a time to read several newsletters. So I know I'm talking to my core market right now. But if you're grumpy, you're pissed off, the easiest way to get rid of that anger, try mentoring someone. I mean, share that knowledge that you have. It doesn't matter what field you're in. It doesn't matter what race, gender, if you served our country. You all have knowledge to share that can help us. I mean, can you imagine the perspective you would get from a retired military vet that's been in dozens of hostile nations? And they come back and listen to Americans complain about traffic, post meaningless selfies of themselves. Hey, how you doing? All over social media, take for granted that you have access to water every day, every minute, or electricity, or opportunity to succeed if you work hard. I gotta tell you, guys like me, I'll sit and listen to you all day, and I've done that. I've done that with so many of you that have emailed in. FrankCurzioResearch.com. There's so many of you. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And for me, that's it's invaluable just to learn, to capture that. I mean, seriously, I read books. I read everything in the markets. I mean, I could teach you guys anything you want when it comes to research, anything. How to do the research, what stories are important, what metrics are important. I mean, you probably won't get a better perspective when it comes to stocks, individual stock picking than anyone in this industry. I can help you with that. At the end of the day, I'm only in the third year of running my own business. I'm not a genius. I'm going to make mistakes. And yet many of you have been through this whole entire cycle already, many times. I mean, starting your own company, learning through those ups and downs, learning from your mistakes that allowed you to retire comfortably. And those lessons I can learn from you are priceless. And again, I've reached out to so many of you for this. And it's cool. I love it. And that respect. So stop being grumpy. Stop being pissed off at the world. You're alive. And being alive is the greatest thing ever. Life's an exceptional thing. So many of us take for granted. Look at Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter, the helicopter crash. I mean, how quickly things can end. And when they do end, and it's going to happen to all of us, right? Death is inevitable. Who do you want to be? You're going to be that person who says, oh, shit, you know what? I wish I had more time to hang out with my family, my kids, my grandkids, just a little bit more. Wish I had time to travel all the place I wanted to go. Wish I to make amends with old friends you lost touch with over stupid, meaningless arguments. Are you going to be that person? I'm going to be the one that says, man, you know what? I accomplished so much. I gave it all as a parent. I worked my ass off to provide a better life for my family, my clients, traveled the world. Met so many amazing people, so many great times, which most of the time that comes from being irresponsible. It's okay to be irresponsible, do stupid things. Those are the times you remember for the rest of your life. Believe me, you're not going to remember the big test you passed in college. No. Drinking and throwing up and not sleeping and going in there to take that test and barely paid. That's a cool story. That's what you remember. And for Kobe, and this hit me really, really hard. I mean, my life was basketball for pretty much every day before I got married. I mean, look at 25 years or so. That's all I did. It built my character, built everything. I went to a high school which was ranked #1 in the country, and I didn't make the team. You know, it could fail, but I use it as motivation and just, it built my character, built me into the person I am today. I took this pretty hard. Well, look at Kobe. I mean, there was so much he wanted to do, yes, for the game, for his family. But you know what? He was a guy that left everything out there. He accomplished almost everything possible in the NBA. League MVP, Finals MVP twice, 5 championships, even won an Oscar. Spent lots of time with his girls after he retired. Traveled the world to educate people about the game, about sportsmanship. Had the ups and downs, we know, just like all of us do. but always rose to the occasion. And what he accomplished in his 41 years is absolutely incredible. And while it's a sad week, day, whatever you want to call it, I mean, this tragedy, I can tell you what, Kobe looking down, at least he could look down and say, man, you know what? I lived. I never took a play off. Every minute counted. Spent time with my daughters, teaching them the game. And that's pretty cool to me. I just don't get why so many people in my neighborhood are so pissed off, so grumpy, so unfriendly. And you know what? I don't see any change coming. I thought I'd get used to it, to the culture. It would get better. Been there for 12 years now. It's actually getting worse, not better. I'm probably going to move, at least to another development, but maybe to another state pretty soon. And I promise